stand by. The second Safe Spaces Summit will begin shortly. The second Safe Spaces Summit is brought to you by Global Peace Foundation and Consuelo Zobel Alger Foundation, and supported by the Department of Education, Department of Education International Cooperation Office, Unilever, and ABSCBN News Channel, our official media partner.
such a unifying vision. We need to recognize the vital importance of the self-evident, transcendent truths that define our common humanity. And we need to build consensus around shared values to undergird the creation of vibrant, prosperous, ethical societies. It is precisely for this reason that I founded the Global Peace Foundation. It is from this broad-based platform that we need to work to concretely demonstrate the effectiveness of this value-based approach in addressing critical issues of peace and opportunity in communities and nations around the world. That vision statement is simple and clear. That all people, regardless of nationality, race, ethnicity, or religion, belong to one family under God.
All children and youth have the right to grow up to be productive, self-reliant, and empowered individuals. We at Consuelo Zobel Alger Foundation seek to support them during this developmental stage. As a private US-based foundation that works for children and their families in the Philippines and Hawaii, we aim to empower the youth through our Life Skills Plus program. The generosity and genuine love for young people by our founder and benefactress, the late Doña Consuelo Zobel Alger, have paved the way for us to commit to building the dignity and resilience of vulnerable youth by equipping them with skills to succeed, especially those who are at risk of or have experienced abuse, neglect, and exploitation. To do this, our Life Skills Plus program focuses on education, healthy lifestyles, employability, family life, and civic engagement of the youth. Education and skills training on technical vocation, creative arts, and leadership are coupled with training on life skills such as youth upkeep and self-care, interaction and communication, productivity, relationships, reproductive health, personal safety, employability, and community involvement. The program also provides child health interventions, adolescent reproductive health education, and livelihood support. We implement this together with our other programs and interventions to make sure that our youth have the necessary abilities to reach their full potential. Because an empowered youth fosters an empowered generation who can lead, dream, and aspire, and make a difference in our world.
Some might be overwhelmed by the complexity of a disruptive world. We see this as an exciting time for bold and forward-thinking leaders.
With several leaders of economies today reminded APEC leaders to focus on economic synergy and cooperation on this year's APEC.
Welcome to Boracay, the Philippines' most famous beach.
We have covered the journey of our young democracy. In ANC, we were witnesses to the defining moments of Philippine history that influenced the world.
To the service of the nation.
We chronicle the journey of a dynamic young population as it makes its mark in a robust economy.
We talk to leaders. We don't shy away from difficult conversations.
ANC Leadership Series.
We don't just tell stories. We tell you why they matter. We sift through the noise and arm you with facts.
We report about disruption and how the latest technology and innovation have changed the way we live.
We've told stories about crisis, but also about opportunities that came with them. This is the Philippines.
The success story we want to share with the world, and we are ANC.
Let us all welcome our host, Mika Pineda.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the second Safe Spaces Summit here in the Philippines. From Safe Spaces to Brave Spaces, happening live via On24 and Zoom. And we are also live via Facebook pages of Global Peace Foundation, Safe Spaces Campaign, and the Department of Education. Hello, once again. My name is Mika Pineda, and I will be your host again for today. So we started strong yesterday with topics on safe spaces for all faces, safe schools, safe conversations, safe spaces for children, and safe communities. And we are not slowing down because today we will feature 5 leaders and safe spaces advocates. And I know that all these topics are all relevant for all of you. We will also announce and view the 5 winners of the 2022 Safe Spaces Campaign short film competition who will receive 50,000 pesos each. So Safe Spaces Summit is brought to you by the Global Peace Foundation and the Consuelo Zobel Alger Foundation and is supported by the Department of Education, Department of Education International Cooperation Office, Unilever, and ABSCBN News Channel, which is our official media partner. But before we start, we would also like to acknowledge our child protection team who are present with us today at this event. It is established for children and youth to reach out if ever you feel that your rights have been violated or if you feel unsafe because of things that have been talked about or that happened during this event. So you can contact the child protection team through the Global Peace Foundation Philippines Facebook page and can drop your concerns there. But we are fortunate that the Global Peace Foundation and the Consuelo Zobel Alger Foundation have forged this partnership in highlighting the role of you, young people, in advancing safe spaces in schools, communities, and conversations both online and offline. So if you have questions for our speakers, you can use the Zoom or the On24 question and answer box, or if you're tuning in via Facebook, just leave your questions in the comment section and we will try to get to those questions. But like yesterday, we do have exciting prizes in store for you. We will be giving away a total of 5,000 pesos via GCash today that you can use to load your data for your online classes or for your work from home setup. So all you have to do, just like yesterday, is to listen to each speaker well, tweet us your takeaway from the talks, and each chosen tweet will receive 1,000 pesos in GCash. So what is the criteria? Substance is 40%, relevance to the topic is 35%, and audience appeal, this is your number of likes and retweets, is 25%. And we have a total of 100%. So share the takeaways that gave you the most impact and you just might win the prizes. So pay close attention and tweet hashtag Safe Spaces for all faces. Once again, you need to use the hashtag. That's hashtag Safe Spaces for all faces, because if you don't use the hashtag, how will we see your tweet? So please use hashtag Safe Spaces for all faces. Let's get started. The Safe Spaces campaign will award a total of 250,000 pesos to 5 winning entries of the campaign's short film competition. And this has categories. You have safe schools, safe conversations, safe communities, creating safe spaces for children, and safe spaces for all faces. And we will be announcing the winners of the Safe Spaces campaign short film competition in a bit. But before that, show some love to your favorite film by typing the title in the chat box. I want to see your comments in the chat box. I wonder. Okay. Yan, I'm seeing the support. Watching from Cabanatuan, from Masbate, from different parts of the country. So out of more than 500 entries, okay, and only 5 of them will be the winner of the Safe Spaces short film competition. You have this is the criteria. I'm seeing, wait, yan, LCA Prod, sino pa ba? Watching from Cotabato, watching from Datu Maasim 1 district. Oh, I love it. Thank you. Just keep this chat box active, okay? So this is the criteria of judging for these films. 60% content and relevance to the theme, 20% creativity of presentation, 20% voters' choice, and that is a total of 100%. And we would also like to acknowledge our panel of judges of the 2022 Safe Spaces campaign short film competition, Miss Cristina Merguino of Consuelo Foundation, Mr. Leonard Faustino of Global Peace Foundation, and Mr. Aldel Delgado Ramos of Refinitiv. And now, alam nyo na, you know the criteria, you know the judges. It is time to move forward to our first category of the 2022 Safe Spaces campaign short film competition. Our first category is Safe Schools, and we have the following films. Pag-Iskul by Nalwa Isun, Jum Isun, Rose May Armada, Aarison Sanchez, Zednefar Asis. Next, we have Parangal by Astrid Florida, Goods Ernest Tambis, Gea Gian Paronia, Nicole Angela Aureo, and Angel Lumacad. Next, you have Direction by Richard John Encarnacion, Eric Zerin Fulgencio, Farina Micaela Quito, Aaron John Aguzar, and Lay Ezekiel Suberon. Wakasan ang Prejudice laban sa IPs by Caris Aguilar, Padayon by Maharlika Production. And the winner is... Congratulations to Parangal by Astrid Florida, Goods Ernest Tambis, Gea Gian Paronia, Nicole Angela Aureo, and Angel Lumacad. Congratulations! Now it is time to watch the winning entry for the category Safe Schools.
I have a dream, a song to sing.
Dear Jean Marie, congratulations! Proud na proud ako sa'yo dahil nalapasan mo na ang mga hamon sa buhay at...
Jean, magbihis ka na! Opo, magbibihis na po! Even if you fail, you are not a failure. So, paano ka naging matapang? May
Pinagkakapitan ko kasi ako.
Pinagkakapitan? Ano?
Ito. Pero hindi naging madali. Consistent honor student kasi ako noon pa man. Pero, nang kailangan ko ng mag-online class, parang hindi ko na nakilala ang sarili ko. Nakulong sa galit at mga luha. Tila ba'y nabitawan ko na ang aking lakas. Dahil doon, napuno ako ng takot. Sa madaling salita, ako ay naduwag.
So, sino ang tumulong sa'yo?
There were people who tried. Pero kung ikaw mismo ang ayaw tumulong sa sarili mo, wala pa rin. Ramdam ko kasi na marami akong binibigo. Hindi lang ang sarili ko, ngunit ang buong mundo.
Mabuti naman at napatawag ka. Kumusta ka na, Jean? Alam mo, lahat tayo ay dumadaan sa mga pagsubok. Hindi talaga natin ito naiiwasan at hindi pwedeng hindi natin ito harapin. Mahirap iyang sinasarili mo lang lahat. Nandito ako at ang mga kaklase mo. Nandito kami mga pamilya mo sa paaralan. Hindi ka namin huhusgahan. Jean, tanggapin mo sa sarili mo na mahina ka ngayon at kailangan mo ng tulong. Dahil kahit kailan, hindi mali ang maging mahina. Kung hinihila ka ng kalungkutan at lungkot, pwede mo akong kapitan. Kami ng iba mong mga guro at mga kaklase. Tutulungan ka namin maging matapang muli.
That night, hindi ko rin alam kung bakit pinili ko magipag-usap kay Miss Vina. Maybe because I felt safe, na hindi niya ako husgahan, and that she will understand me. Dahil, guro siya. Unti-unti kong natutunang alagaan ang aking sarili. Umabot sa mga deadlines at pinagpatuloy ang pagsusulat ng liham tulad ng sinabi sa akin ni Miss Vina. Hindi naman naging madali ang proseso, pero heto ako. Patuloy na lumalaban at unti-unting bumabangon mula sa pagkalugmok.
Ano nga ulit ang natanggap mong parangal?
Hindi ako nakatanggap ng academic award.
Hindi ka ba nagsisisi?
Hindi. Turo kasi ng aming paaralan na hindi nasusukat ang halaga ng isang tao sa akademiko.
So, bakit ka may ganyan? Ito?
Parang ko ito para sa aking sarili. Noon, ang paaralan lamang ang lugar kung saan ako nakakaramdam ng kaligtasan. Doon ko nakikita ang halaga ko bilang isang tao. Ngayon, di man pisikal na nakakapunta, ang paaralan pa rin ang lugar na humubog sa akin upang maging matapang. Salamat dahil hindi ka sumuko at pinili mong maging matapang. Nagmamahal at patuloy na lumalaban ang iyong sarili. To help me cope with anything, I'll cross the stream. I have a dream.
And congratulations to our winner. Thank you for sharing your passion toward creating a safer school environment for our students despite the pandemic and this remote learning setup. Kaya congratulations for that very compelling film, Parangal. Okay, let's now hear the talk for the Youth Initiative on Safe Schools. Our speaker is Haton Zulueta, the president and founder of AHA Learning Center, a nonprofit that's helped over 3 million students get access to equitable education, trained over 110,000 parents and teachers, and produced hundreds of educational TV and radio during the pandemic. Let us welcome Haton Zulueta.
Hello, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. My name is Jayton Zulueta, not Haton Zulueta. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you. I know that it's very important for me to be here with you. I'm on site now currently in one of our community centers. Better World Cubao, joint project with San Miguel Foundation, wherein we are trying to create safe spaces for underprivileged women. It's a center that's focused on her. Her, H for health, E for empowerment, and R for recovery. In this center, it's one of the many spaces, safe spaces we're trying to create all over the Philippines, wherein we will have health services. There are doctors here available for productive health needs. Empowerment services, where there will be gender equality sessions. And recovery services, where we'll have free mental health services available. The last part, recovery, is something I'd like to discuss today. Recovery po from what? Kadalasan yung tanong ng mga magulang natin kapag sinasabi natin may mental health issue. Mabait naman ako sa'yo, anak, di ba? Ikaw naman ay inalagaan, di ba? What do you have to complain about? Kung ikaw ay buhay pa, may magulang kang minamahal, at ngayon papasok na tayo. In the video that we watched, the award-winning video, kadalasan yung pinag-uusapan nun was yung paulit-ulit na sinasabi ng babae na hindi siya mahuhusgahan. Pero in reality, in real life, di ba? Whether it is yung tita natin, or fellow classmates even, mental health, hinuhusgahan tayo. And that is something that isn't just a problem of me and you. That's a problem for all of us. So the challenge of safe schools, mga kaibigan, and the challenge that we have to do as we recover from this completely traumatic and brutal pandemic, yung challenge yung sa atin is how can we actively become safe spaces? Tayo mismo, mga kabataan, well kayo, mga kabataan, matagal na ako nag-over dyan. Kayo, mga kabataan, how can we actively become safe spaces? In many instances, to become a safe space to somebody isn't just telling them that we'll be there for them. In many cases, it's the understanding of what it means to be unsafe. Just yesterday, we had a case. We had a case of a child who got addicted to mobile games, and every time tinanggal yung phone, siya ay nagwawala. Nagwawala at naging violent. The family obviously became very, very scared of their own safety. In many cases, if you just read the report on paper, the focus is more on the most shocking part of the story, wherein the child took a knife and attempted to threaten his mother with it. This child is just one of many different children who have been undergoing severe traumatic experiences and have been reacting impacting, albeit that is an extreme case, negatively. After further conversation, I'm sorry, the center is right beside a toda. So the noise of the tricycle comes through. We need to be close to the people, but that means we are close to the tricycle also. Anyhow, at first case, the focus is on the extreme behavior that was done. But upon further analysis, upon several sessions, we will find that not that the child was addicted to mobile gaming, but that the violence was a result of the extreme loneliness and trauma the child had gone through over the last couple of days. It is this understanding and empathic listening of what makes people unsafe that we have to start talking about. For that child, apparently, the trigger was the cell phone being taken away. Because for the last 2 years, that was the comfort. That was the friend. That was the teacher. That was the classmate. And to take that away would make me feel unsafe. For many of us, it could be a word. Maybe the word quiz, exam, causes now a special tingle in our spine. Maybe simple things that did not become, that wasn't unsafe before, is now unsafe to us. When people crowd in a corner, that might make us feel more unsafe. And what we need to practice when we talk about safe spaces is the idea that this is a definition we have to build together. There are many literature on safe spaces, but the thing that works the most is when the community comes in and listens to each other. What's safe to all of us in this room could be different to what's safe for the few of us. So the question is, will we make the effort to understand where everyone else is coming from? Will we make the effort to realize that after we've given our support, it might not be enough? In our work, where we put up community centers all over the country in last mile schools, the big problem that often comes out in safe schools is the parents' inability to feel that the child, or to recognize that the child is actually feeling unsafe. Bilang isang magulang, nakikilala ko tong behavior na to. At baka ito ay pwede kong ma-share sa inyong lahat. Bilang isang magulang, as much as we want to understand our children, the prevailing and overwhelming feeling of us parents is to protect you. So if you are not feeling safe, madalas, if you're not feeling safe, mga kaibigan, we would more likely want to give solutions as quickly as possible, maybe to the point of not listening, brushing off some feelings, maybe even to the point of ignoring certain signs. Masyadong masakit na malaman ng aming anak ay nasasaktan at wala tayong magawa because of this. Sorry, I have a question in the chat, Mika. Is this a question for me?
Oh, no. We're just we do have a question for you, but later after your talk.
Okay.
It's after your talk. Go ahead. Continue.
Thank you, Ms. Mika. In most cases, the biggest problem of most safe schools is the fact that home is unsafe and has been unsafe for a very long time. Our understanding of that will help us make safer schools. Because we need to first realize that our experience of safety and unsafety, of safety and danger, could vary depending on what happened to us during the pandemic. Different things will trigger us. And maybe certain things that were clockwork might be more difficult now more than ever. It is challenging that I am coming to you now with all of these different problems, but very little solutions. Because it's so challenging to create a handbook for what really safe spaces will be like, given there are so many dangers we've gone through. But I'd like to leave you with 3 main thoughts. Number 1, if your parents, your teachers, or even the elders that you might have, or even your friends, might have a tendency to make you feel unsafe by not recognizing the fact that you are hurting. Maybe not saying the right thing when you've shared something. Maybe even not brushing off and saying, "Sige, hindi, kaya mo lang yan. Huwag mo nang isipin yan." Those things we say to people that have mental health issues. Judging, as the video said. I think we have to also recognize the fact that that person that you're talking to does not know what to do or say. That person that you're talking to just wants your pain to stop, even if it doesn't really stop, but appears to stop. Because more often than not, when we hurt, our parents, our family members hurt as well. The second key thing is recognizing the fact that we're coming from extremely unsafe places and an extremely unsafe time with the pandemic. And recognizing that we're coming from that time will help us not only listen to these talks more carefully, but take the initiative to create safer spaces in the small groups that we have. The last note, there's a question in the chat that I'd like to get into. The last note that I wanted to say, it's often said in many of these youth forums or these summits, is that oftentimes when we think of what creates a safe school, a safe home, we think that the people that have the power to create these safe spaces need exactly that power. Pero sa katunayan po, you do not need power in your designations. You do not need to be the principal, the head teacher, or the most popular person in school to create a safe space. Power in its very basic form is physics. Its physics form is the ability to move somebody. And the hardest thing to move, you can move all these chairs in this room that you're in, but it's very difficult to move people. So when you talk about the word empower, you're really talking about the ability to move people. And while this talk might have sparked more questions than answers, the ability to move people always starts with an open conversation. Dare to have these open and honest conversations with the people in your circles. Ask them difficult questions and know that every session that you might have might not be a problem-solving activity rather than a problem-understanding activity. It takes work, but it is not impossible. We have created safe spaces all over the Philippines, not because our program is good, but because the people that we work with are good. And I know that if you are at a summit like this, You are not only capable to move people or to empower people, but you also have taken the right step by wanting to understand more about the problem. Mr. Care, thank you, has a question. As educators for parents, how do we create an encouraging environment for students to develop their character, especially now with the pandemic? For me, Sir Kier, I think as educators, as an educator myself, the big thing is that we have to kind of pepper the way our expectations. I think we're coming in and will be completely blindsided by the fact that many of our assessments online, writing, math assessments, even the higher levels in college, might tell a completely different picture than what you'll see face to face. Yung estudyante mo, nang galing magsulat, si mama pala yung magaling magsulat. Yung estudyante mo na magaling magsalita, sa Google pala, normal yun. Yung estudyante mo na nagkapapasa ng modules for the last 2 years religiously, baka hindi na-retain yung karamihan na natutuan. Let's expect this and lower the expectations that we have academically. It will take a while for us to reverse the impact of learning loss. But while our child is struggling to keep up with their lessons, it does not mean that we cannot teach. It does not mean that they cannot learn. I think the big lesson of a safe school, of being there for each other, about about listening, about being able to identify problems, about being empathetic, to ask the right questions. All skill sets you need to be safe and to keep a safe environment are skill sets that have similar competencies as the 21st century learning. They are skill sets that will, like what we want as teachers, help our students become better individuals in the future. It's skills that they will keep for life. So while their grades might be behind, do not forget that learning can still happen. And that learning did happen even during the most difficult parts of the pandemic. Madalas yung tanong sa akin ng mga magulang, guro, at pati na rin minsan mga estudyante, pasensya na, papadaan natin. No? I'm not gonna miss this part of the pandemic Zoom, definitely. While a lot of the questions a lot of people had in terms of what happens next and what should we expect and how do we catch up with the time we lost? How do we catch up? We lost so much time, Jayton. We lost so much time. I am reminded of a simple number, 21. That's how many students and parents I know personally who've died during the pandemic. 21. 21. Wala pa yan yung mga kaibigan, kapamilya na namatay. So many of us are coming into this pandemic, coming out of this pandemic. Yes, tired. Yes, a little bit more mentally unsafe. Yes, a little more, with a lot more baggage than when we entered the pandemic. But we are alive, mga kaibigan. And with this new world is the opportunity to do good by more people and to create a much better world for everyone else. So, these small conversations that you have, these small, powerful conversations that you'll keep having about safe spaces, is not actually small in nature because the impact they have for that person you're talking to and to you, the practice of helping and creating and dreaming of something better for everyone else is what makes this world a better place. I'd like to end my talk by saying something that we have in all our walls in all of the centers. Sayang nga, masama yung signal dun sa taas. Pero we have a beautiful mural that says it. Tayo ang pagbabago ating hinihintay. Tayo ang pagbabagong ating hinihintay. What this tells us, tayong pagbabago ating hinihintay, is that we have the power to change the things we want in this world. And we don't have to ask whether or not it's our turn to do things better. We just take it. We don't have to wonder if it's me that needs to create a safer school. If you see the problem and you can do something about it, start. We don't need to dream of a new president, a new senator, a new barangay captain, a new leader to come in because tayong pangbabagong ating hinihintay. We are the change we've been waiting for. Reminds us how powerful people can be when they work together. Maraming salamat po. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be with you. I apologize for all the noise, but I hope that it's helped you, inspired you to start safe spaces by being a safe space yourself. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Jayton. Wow, like that, a lot of the things you said, I'm pretty sure to our viewers now, they do have a lot of takeaways. So thank you very much for your insightful talk. We now move on to our second topic, safe communities. And our top 5 finalists are Encuentro by Johnny Bobier II, In a Fire-Ready Community by Patrick Lubert B. Custodio, Paraisong Bacau by Adrian N. Manawis, Jonilo, A Blind Man's Story by Carl Joseph C. Lara, Sitsalp by Jean A. Evangelista. And the winner is... Congratulations to Encuentro by Johnny Bobier II. Let's all watch the winning entry for the category Safe Communities.
Asan mga magulang nyo?
Nawawala si mama namin. Hinahanap namin siya. Tapos, ang daming nagtatakbuhan. Nagtatakbuhan na kaming lahat. Nagpapaputok na sila ng barel.
Sumisigaw na sila. Ang daming nag-iiyakan. Tinutukan nila kami ng baril. Tapos, nagtago kami dito sa gubat. Inaanak namin si Mama. Hindi ko po alam kung saan kami pupunta ng kapatid ko. Tulungan niyo po kami.
Si Mama. Iniligtas ko ng sundalong nakilala namin yung kapatid ko sa gera. Tinulungan ko lang kasama-sama kabila ang mga sugat sa ulo. Siya ang aming bayani. Ang tunay na bayani. Ang sundalong nagbulis ng buhay para mailigtas ang mga katulad namin Muslim na iligtas sa gera. Ang buhay namin tatanungin ang naloob ang ginawa mong kabayanihan sa amin at sa bayan. Saludo po namin.
Salamat. Kung di dahil sa'yo, hindi ko makakasama ang mga anak ko.
Salamat po kasi tinulungan mo kami magsama-sama.
Utang na loob po namin ang buhay namin sa'yo.
Wow! Congratulations to Johnny Babier II and his film entitled Encuentro. Your film really showed creativity in delivering a message of peace, hope, and a safe community. But before we move on to the next set of films, let us listen to our speaker for safe communities. We have Miss Vanessa Bianca Pagliarco, who is the Director for Social Healing and Peace Building Department under the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, Philippines. This Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process Philippines serves as the agency mandated to support the comprehensive peace processes by contributing to the formation of enabling the environment in the conflict-affected and conflict-vulnerable areas by addressing the issues and concerns and promoting the healing and transformation of women, youth, and other vulnerable sectors, including displaced persons from the Marawi crisis, surfacing violent extremists, orphans, widows, families, and their communities through conflict-sensitive and peace-promoting interventions. Let's all welcome Ms. Vanessa. Unmute yourself, ma'am.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum. And are you able to also view my slide here? Can the host confirm if it's seen?
Ma'am, we can hear you, yes, and we can see it.
Okay, thank you. I think a very relatable, no, yung video kanina that was shown earlier. So congratulations as well. And from the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, formerly known as OPAP, we are very much thankful and humbled for the opportunity that you have shown us to share more about the role of the Filipino youth towards peace building and the achievement of the safe spaces in their respective communities and contexts. Okay. So for today, I'll be also sharing with you the different government initiatives that allows us to also come up with inclusive programs and more meaningful participation of our youth, particularly in the context of peace building. So let me introduce to you, no, sino ba si OPAP or the OPAP RU, no, as we have launched this the other day. So the OPAP, or the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, is a government agency mandated to coordinate and integrate all the existing peace efforts in our country. So yung vision natin, no, na we subscribe upon is how to have to work towards a just and lasting peace for our nation and for all Filipinos. So medyo long-term tong perspective na tinitignan natin, and in order to achieve this, no, we really have to ensure that we are able to also inculcate particularly yung ating young generations or yung mga future leaders natin, no, sa kahalagahan ng kultura ng kapayapaan. So at the moment, this is where we are in terms of our road to peace and transformation. It is not a short straight road, rather it's really a long winding path, because we also recognize that different complexities, no, in before we really ensure that we are able to have sustainable and just and lasting peace in our country. So currently we have different signed peace agreements. For example, we have the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro that was signed in 2015. Similarly, we also have a 1996 Final Peace Agreement between the Government of the Philippines and the Moro National Liberation Front. So this is just one of the contexts, no, natin in the southern Philippines, no. But apart from that, meron pa tayong mga different conflict contexts, no, in our country that have been happening in Luzon and also in Visayas. So itong ating program is also anchored doon sa ating long-term agenda. The government has what we call the Ambition 2040, and similarly, we subscribe doon sa ating Philippine Development Plan that has a specific chapter, yung chapter 17, that talks about the just and lasting peace. So within that chapter, there are specific provisions that also talks about the role of the women yung sa implementation ng ating National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security. And similarly, I'll also be introducing you yung mas pronounced na role ng kabataan, kasi meron tayong tinatawag na National Action Plan on Youth, Peace, and Security. So, ito yung na-mention ko kanina, no, yung mga context where we are operating. So, the first two is prevalent in the Southern Philippines context. We have the GPH-MILF and the GPH-MNLF context na kasalukuyan, no, na ini-implement natin. Meron tayong program doon on normalization that also has different components. Meron dong political, security, and socio-economic. And dito sa mga context na ito, halimbawa sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, meron ding espasyo yung ating mga kabataan at kababaihan. There is an agency created to particularly oversee and look at the plight of the youth, no, yung ating Bangsamoro Youth Commission, and there is also a Bangsamoro Women Commission that were established as part of the signed agreement. In the other context naman, dun sa ating areas of our country like Luzon, Visayas, Meron din yung tinatawag na Executive Order 70 na ini-implement or yung National Task Force to End the Local Communist Armed Conflict. This one naman, no, yung context kung saan nagkaroon ng communist affectation, no, in some parts of our country. And dito, meron din kahalagahan yung papel ng ating mga kabataan. There is a specific cluster, the Sukbem cluster, that provides for the youth participation. No? And in these areas kasi, merong mga context kung saan nagiging vulnerable, no, yung ating mga kabataan sa recruitment din. In the Northern Luzon area, portions of Northern Mindanao and Visayas, meron din tayong mga completion agreements sa context ng RPMP, RPA, ABB, and the CBA, CPLA peace process. Ito rin na mga agreement na to, meron din tayong nilatag na program that can explicitly, no, provide yung ating interventions for the women and youth sa Kapatiran Women Transformation in the context of the RPMP, RPA, ABB, and the CBA, CPLA process, meron tayong Dayaw Youth and Women Transformation also. So, along with that, to support these programs, there are also two more programs, yung ating social healing and peace building, and the Pamana and other socioeconomic interventions in conflict-affected areas. So, the social healing and peace building also looks into the prevention component, no, nung ating National Action Plan on Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism. And similarly, yung implementation
Currently,
so, to give you a more background pa, no, dun sa ating social healing and peace building program, this is where much of also of the opportunities and platforms for our youth are provided. No, it's a program created to support the different peace tables, the ones I've showed you earlier, and also the transformation of the women, including the widows of war, the youth, including the orphans of war, yung ating mga indigenous people, the internally displaced person, no? Kasi in every context of conflict or kung nagkakaroon ng mga armed clashes like yung nangyari sa Marawi siege or yung mga kung mga nagkakaroon ng mga attacks, no, there are always families that get affected or yung mga nagiging internally displaced, and much of the time the predominant composition of those who are displaced are usually yung women, no, and children. So the program also looked into the context ng mga threats like the violent extremists, but at the same time, meron din mga nagbabalik loob na mga FVEs or surfacing and former violent extremists na tinututukan ng ating program sa pamamagitan ng conflict-sensitive and peace-promoting approaches. So this one is also the platform where we try to mainstream yung ating tinatawag na culture of peace. Kasi in order for the other programs, no, yung peace tables natin, na masustain yung kanilang mga peace dividends, there is a need, no, to cultivate, no, yung importance or yung appreciation ng mga komunidad towards the culture of peace. And this is a very critical, no, hindi lang in areas where there are prevalence of conflict, but also in areas that may not have physical manifestations of conflict. Halimbawa, even in the social media arena nangyayari yung ganitong mga concerns, no, nung kasagsagan ng Marawi siege previously, may mga lumabas, for example, na mga narratives of discrimination or violence against some of the culture, no, na naa-attribute siya sa specific group. But in fact, no, pag sinabi nating violent extremism, no, wala siyang religion, no. It talks about an ideology and it doesn't know any kind of religion. So very critical, no, itong pagtingin natin, no, sa pagpalawak ng culture of peace, not only in the physical arena, no, but even equally important is yung ating mga virtual spaces or platforms of communication. Okay, so along this line, no, it's also critical that we are able to engage yung ating youth, no, sa peace building. And I'm not only talking about engaging, no, na meron kang participant na youth or kasama nyo sa picture, masasabi mo na meron kang representante ng youth. Kasi it's not enough. No, when we talk about engagement, there has to be a meaningful engagement, no, ng ating mga kabataan. So lalo na no in some areas so na nakakaroon ng vulnerability no, yung kahalagahan ng pagsama ng ating mga kabataan at all stages no. Pwede natin silang isama at the identification of interventions, even yung pagkonsulta no doon sa narratives of the youth is very important because as policymakers we may not be able to really interpret yung kalagayan ng ating mga kabataan. So it's very important na sila mismo no yung we provide spaces where they can freely articulate no the narratives or experiences that they have in their respective communities. So dito tinitignan din natin yung promotion of peace and sustaining the peace building efforts in the country. So this one may look quite wide no but itong when we talk about the country of course binubuo ito no ng iba't ibang grupo also no ng mga kabataan, and even the basic unit of the society which is the family also has very fundamental role dito sa ating peace building efforts. Just imagine no if you have younger siblings, even the selection of the toys that we give to them already has a critical impact in their learning formation. So sa household ba natin, ang binibigay ba nating laruan ay mga baril at sila'y nagbabaril-barilan, or we give them games that elicit a cooperation or harmonization among their young peers, no? So yun yung mga pwede na nating tingnan no, at the onset. So allow me to also share with you, there is what we call a Philippine Youth Development Plan. So this is the long-term plan din, no, na blueprint on where we are actually engaging the youth. No? So this is led by the National Youth Commission wherein they identified no, the different strategies kung saan ba pumapasok no, yung mga kabataan. So the youth represent change, and the Philippine Youth Development Plan ensures that the youth are engaged in the positive social change. So this is also anchored doon sa ating batas, no, the RA 8044 or yung ating Youth in Nation Building Act, which enjoins all state duty bearers at the national and local levels to maximize the participation of the youth in nation building as responsible and proactive citizens. Similarly, the Philippine Youth Development Plan has a specific
Hi, Miss Vanessa. Okay, currently having some technical difficulties. Let's just give Miss Vanessa a bit more time to currently join us again. But at this point, I would want to remind the members of the audience, please do tweet your key takeaways because the Twitter contest is not done. 5 winners can still win 1,000 pesos each via GCash. But please remember to use the hashtag Safe Spaces for All Faces. Okay, at this point, Miss Vanessa, I hope you are reconnecting. But we also want to acknowledge Patrick Palomares, who has been our sign language interpreter since yesterday. Thank you, Patrick, because this is a very inclusive move on the part of safe spaces. Last year, I believe we didn't have that, but this year we have Patrick helping us. So thank you very much, Patrick, for being our sign language interpreter. If Miss Vanessa will not be hopping in to join us at this moment, we want to encourage everybody to type in the chat box your questions for Miss Vanessa, and then we can just forward it to her, and we can connect you via email for those questions. Okay, for this next set of film, we have these under the Safe Conversations category. We have Gambala by Cinema Likhain, Scene by Hanver Tupas, Danica Espedillon, LM Tabalok, Raya Adenit, Upuan Man MV by Meraki Productions, Ang Kailangan Ko Lang Ang Tainga Mo by Mark Umapas, Nang Minsang Binaklas Ang Hawla by Ningas Sining Productions. And the winner is... Congratulations to Nang Minsang Binaklas Ang Hawla by Ningas Sining Productions. Let's all watch the winning entry for the category Safe Conversations.
I walk along the city streets you used to walk along with me. And every step I take recalls how much in love we used to be. Oh, how can I forget you when there is always something there to remind me?
Mon!
Always something there
Mon!
to remind me.
Ay, oo nga pala, nakasalubong ko kanina mga kaibigan mo. Kanina pa raw sila tawag ng tawag, tinatanong kung wala ka daw ba dito.
Gia. 8 beses. Tinuring ko na siyang pangalawang tatay. Pintor siya. Pero sa tuwing nakikita niya ako, nag-iiba yung diwa ng pagkapintor sa kanya. Ginagawang brotsa ang dila at laway ang nagsisilbing pintura. Hanggang sa tumira siya sa amin. Naulit, nang naulit, nang naulit, nang naulit. Kahit pala, kadugo mo, pwedeng gawin sa'yo yun, no?
Jane, 2 beses. Kakatapos na nung huling exam namin para sa buong taon. Kaya, nagkayayang mag-celebrate. Sa sobrang kasiyahan, nalasing ako. Nilasing ako. Doon nila ginawa. Doon nila ginawa ang mga bagay na minsan hindi ko inisip na magagawa nila sa akin. Ako? Ayoko ng kaibigang babae. Kaya sila yung mga naging kaibigan ko. Mga kaibigan ko sila noon. Hindi ko na alam ngayon.
Cherry. 1 beses. Karinderyang bukas para sa lahat ng gustong kumain. Ayun ang tawag sa mga tulad ko. Ilang taon ba naman ang pagiging prosty, hindi pa ba ako masasanay sa ganung biruan? Ang huling tanda ko na lang, nakikipagtawanan ako sa kanilang dalawa. Nagising na lang ako sa mga halinghing ng isa sa kanilang malapit ng makaraos. Pokpok ako sa paningin ng maraming tao. Pero hindi yun imbitasyon para babuyin ako.
Ma, may sasabihin po ako.
Congratulations to Nang Minsang Binaklasang Hawla by Ninga Sining Production. Indeed, this film showed the importance of having safe conversations in empowering the youth of today. So thank you very much. Our next youth speaker is Vino Lucero for Safe Conversations. He is the Digital Rights and Communications Manager of Engage Media, an Asia-Pacific nonprofit organization advocating for digital rights, open and secure technology, and video for change. He is a contributing author for the book Data Justice and COVID-19 Global Perspectives, published by Meatspace Press in London, United Kingdom back in 2020. He is also a fellow for the 2021 GIF Article 19 Internet of Rights Fellowship and the National Researcher for the Philippines for the 2020-2021 Global Data Barometer. He is also a member of the Governance Circle of Innovation for Change East Asia, serving as part of the board from January 2022 to December 2023. He is also the national convener for Youth Alliance for Freedom of Information, the leading youth coalition advocating for people's right to know in the Philippines. Let us all welcome Mr. Vino Lucero.
Great. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Mika. Hello, everyone. This is Vino Lucero from Engage Media and Youth Alliance for Freedom of Information. So thank you so much for the organizers of this event for inviting me. And yeah, let's get right to it. I will just start sharing my screen. Okay. Great. So my focus would be on freedom of speech and responsibility to listen. Before we definitely focus on the second part of that topic, I just want to start the discussion by focusing on the international and national guarantees as to freedom of speech and expression, because I think that is very important now, especially during a time wherein we acknowledge that there are threats and attacks towards freedom of speech and expression from all over the world. So I guess it is just a good time to do a bit of a recap. So for the international aspect of it, we definitely can refer to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So Article 19, Section 2 mentions our right to freedom of expression, given that a lot of the countries acknowledge ICCPR. I think this is definitely something that you can refer to when it comes to freedom of speech and expression. But in the context of the Philippines, now we in the 1987 Philippine Constitution in Article 3, Bill of Rights, Section 4, there is that explicit mention of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. So aside from that, we also have other references, some United Nations General Assembly resolutions and Human Rights Council resolutions. I just wanted to point this out because sometimes now we know and we mention in everyday conversations that, all right, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of expression, but sometimes when it is under attack and somebody is trying to limit our freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we don't know kung saan ba talaga based yung ating freedom of speech and expression. So we have these international and national laws or policies that we can refer to just in case. It is always a good thing to know your rights and where is it explicitly mentioned, just so you can refer to it and maybe share it to others if they do not know where is it written. So yeah, I think that is very important now. Because before we move on to the discussion of having this freedom of speech and expression, but then at the same time, with that freedom comes the responsibility to listen and at the same time protect other people's right to free speech and freedom of expression as well. Um, it's always good to have this knowledge because um, we experience and we notice a lot of instances wherein we experience censorship, merong limitations when it comes to our freedom of speech because of certain circumstances. So if you want to learn more about the extent of your freedom of speech based on law, you can definitely just check out these um, resources. But then let's move on to the responsibility to listen. So of course, now yung ating freedom of speech and expression, it is guaranteed by law and international agreements. But then at the same time, in order to observe as well other people's freedom of speech and expression, we need to be mindful of the space. And that entails being cognizant or being aware of your responsibility to listen and to give space. So one way to take it is that listening to others is a form of respect, no? May it be online or offline. We're talking about freedom of expression online or offline. Um, Giving time for other people to exercise their freedom of speech and freedom of expression is actually a form of respect. And ensuring that there is a safe space for them to express what they want to say or what they want to say out there, that is definitely important. So beyond acknowledging that you have freedom of speech or freedom of expression, there comes a responsibility in ensuring that this space is safe for everyone to express um, their rights, basically. So that is the first one. So listening as a form of respect, that includes ensuring that the space is safe, and then at the same time ensuring that you pause to listen to others and give them the chance to share their thoughts and opinions. Um, okay, next part of the responsibility to listen is that you need to listen to be able to respond. Sometimes there are communications channels wherein responding is not that encouraged or is not um, possible based on the on the tech that is available. But most of the tech that is available out there when it comes to the online context of freedom of expression, there is an opportunity to respond or to comment or to quote tweet. So you need to listen so that you can respond in context of the discussion that is ongoing. Kumbaga, no, we want to avoid using our freedom of speech just for the sake of it. We want to exercise our freedom of expression and freedom of speech in context of what's happening so that it can contribute to a bigger discussion, you know. So listening to respond, that is very important. But of course, when taken out of context and listening to respond, you don't just want to listen to respond. That's kind of reactive. But then at the same time, you need to take this into the context of the next one, which is to inform and get informed. So sometimes when we are having conversations, maybe online or in person, we notice that once we listen to other people, we notice that sometimes they are misinformed. Sometimes they know something, but they want to know more. And listening is very important when it comes to informing other people, just so you know what aspects of the information they do not know and want to learn more about. Then at the same time, what information did they get wrong? So I guess this is in context of the discussion of the information disorder. We all know about the massive disinformation issue online, and even before we have that offline as well, but we don't call it disinformation. Or some people call it fake news, but no news is fake, so we call it disinformation instead. That's the more accurate term. So basically listening to other people share their thoughts and opinions will actually help you inform them about the information that they need, and then at the same time correct misconceptions that they have. So you are actually contributing to addressing the information disorder online when you listen to other people. And then at the same time, you also need to listen to get informed. Sometimes we acknowledge the fact now that while some of us, most of us, have certain expertise and knowledge about certain topics, we do not know everything. So it takes time to actually know more about things, but you cannot have a monopoly of knowledge and information. So it is also our responsibility to take time and listen to other people so that we can absorb more information and get informed. Okay. This is kind of related to that as well, but a more highlight on full context and information. Sometimes, when we listen, it is kind of selective. We just take things that we like to hear. So sometimes something like a confirmation bias, or some sort. So it is our responsibility to listen so that we can get full context and information. I want to put this in an angle wherein it helps you personally. So take for example, when you get information and you have selective hearing, you just want to hear what you want to hear. Basically, you don't get the full context, and then sometimes it can affect how you decide on things in the future. So I guess what I want to say is that you have the responsibility to listen just so you can get the full context and information, and just not the things that you want to consume or you want to hear, so that you are well rounded and well informed about the full context, whether you like it or not. And lastly, when it comes to responsibility to listen, um, the biggest point would be to listen, to engage, and empower. So we are discussing in the context of freedom of speech and expression, and then the responsibility to listen. Yeah. Given that a lot of us youth leaders are trying to address some societal issues or trying to contribute to the betterment of society, we listen so that we can engage other people. We can be informed about their situation, and then at the same time, maybe co create or collaborate with them to address those issues. And we can also use the power of listening to empower other people. So, that they let us know what they need, what skills and knowledge that they want to work on, and then we help them get it. So yeah, it is important to listen. Sometimes we think no, na when we exercise our freedom of speech, or basically when we talk, it is a display of knowledge and a display of power. But then at the same time, when it comes to advocacy work, it is very important. Listening is a very important tool kasi we can definitely use it to be informed naman on how we can engage people and communities better, and how we can better empower our fellow youth leaders or the communities that we work with, or um, you know other people in the Philippine society. So yeah, I hope you take the time to reflect on those prompts now about the responsibility to listen, because that uh, when you exercise the totality of it, it will help ensure that while you are maximizing your freedom of speech and expression, you are also helping other people maximize their freedom of speech and expression. So yeah, that is it for me. Thank you so much for listening. So just in case you have questions or you want to connect for collaboration after this event, this is my email. And yeah, you can visit engagemedia.org for more content about digital rights, open and secure technology, and video for change. Thank you so much. Back
Thank
to you,
you,
Mika.
thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Vino. Really, listening is very, very important. It's a skill that we all have to develop. And we do have a question for you. The question is: do you think that there is a limit in expressing our opinions? If yes, in which situations?
Yes, there is definitely a limit, especially if you are coming from a perspective that is misinformed. No, and then at the same time, if you are using your right to free speech or freedom of expression to harm other people, that is definitely the limit. So we should not look at freedom of speech and freedom of expression. That is something that is one dimensional, na just for us. It is also something that other people have. So yeah, I have been mentioning that we need to strike a balance, maximizing our freedom of speech and expression, then at the same time helping others maximize theirs. So creating that balance, I guess, would definitely set some limits to our personal freedom of speech and expression. But it is all for good cause, because if everyone gets to exercise their freedom of speech and expression in a healthy way that protects the space and ensures that there is safe space for everyone to express and say what say their thoughts and opinions, of course in the context of truth, no, and facts, that is definitely something that we should aspire for, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Vino Lucero. Thank you. At this point, we would want to call back Miss Vanessa Bianca Payarco. As you, if you remember a while ago, she had a bit of technical difficulty and she wasn't able to finish her presentation. Let's give her the floor right now.
Hello, everyone. Apologies for the challenge on connectivity. I am currently on the field now, so medyo lang nagkaroon ng erratic signal. But thank you very much for the opportunity to continue my presentation, no? Kasi talagang yung video that was played no prior to my presentation, isa yan talaga ng mga relatable experience no na nangyayari in some of the areas of our country. And I think this platform is very critical for us to also share no yung mga narratives no ng ating mga kabataan no in the other parts of our country. So I will just be continuing my presentation no. So this is where I think I got disconnected. Okay na ba yung aking audio as well? And are you guys able to view my presentation? Okay. So this is ito yung sinasabi nga natin no, we have to continuously engage yung ating mga kabataan no in our peace building efforts. And when we talk about engagement no, kailangan it has to be meaningful or yung makabuluhan at ramdam nila no na sila ay bahagi ng proseso no, not only just for us to take pictures na kasama natin yung kabataan, rather we are really able to gather the salient elements of the narratives that they have been sharing no. Kaya this is also one of the platforms na meron tayong mga iba't ibang mga programs also for the youth together with other government agencies no, wherein we harvest no yung iba't ibang mga pinagdadaanan no, ng ating mga kabataan, not only in areas where there is conflict affectation and conflict vulnerability, but similarly in the other parts of the country. No? So for this one, meron din tayong mga iba't ibang mga programs that we are signatory doon sa United Nations. But prior to that, allow me to also introduce to you na meron na tayong mga policies in place on where we can anchor yung ating mga initiatives for the youth. Isa dito no yung ating batas, the RA 8044 that provides for the Youth in Nation Building Act. So it recognizes no yung unique role of our youth no in the nation building. So kasama dito, it enjoins all state duty bearers at the national and local levels to maximize the participation of the youth in nation building as responsible and proactive citizens. Kasi kaya meron din siya, translate siya into a Philippine Youth Development Plan. So kasama ito no, ito yung blueprint no. Kung mapapansin niyo, there are different strategies no, na meron siyang siyam, and lahat ito no mga kinakaharap ng ating mga kabataan no, yung mga security issues and concerns on health, especially when during the COVID-19 pandemic no, and even ngayon no, meron pa rin marami sa ating mga kabataan ang naapektuhan nito no in the different levels, and I'll also show that to you kasi isa yun sa mga lumabas doon sa ating mga consultation with the youth. Similarly, on education, economic empowerment, social inclusion and equity, governance, active citizenship, environment, and global mobility. But allow me to also focus, no, isa sa elements na talagang explicitly na sinulat dito sa PYDP is yung papel ng ating mga kabataan sa peace building, no, and security. So kasi sinasabi nga natin, no, the absence of conflict, no, hindi rin siya sapat na basis para maging complacent tayo kasi kaakibat ng ating responsibility is to ensure that we are able to protect the peace that we have, no? And it has to be done, no, through continuous peace building. Kaya ito rin yung gusto nating ipakita sa mga kabataan, no? On one hand, there might be situations wherein the youth may appear to be vulnerable, but the other spectrum of that is if we are able to really empower our youth, no, kaya din natin na sila mismo yung maging mga proactive, no, agents of change, especially towards positive social change, and lalo na sa areas kung nasan sila yung pagiging proactive agents of peace and development in their communities. But to do that, it's imperative that we understand, no, ano ba yung nuancing ng ating mga young people sa kahalagahan ng safe spaces? Ano ba yung definition ng safe spaces for them, no? And similarly, is this equivalent to peace building? Kasi dun sa nakikita nating narratives at the moment, no, safe spaces is also critical in ensuring, no, na meron tayong ginagampanan, no? Bilang kabataan, tayo rin, we have to know our role and contribution, the potential contribution that we can have, no, for peace building. So, dito din, nung sa mga consultation natin, no, isa sa mga sinabi ng ating kabataan is that safe spaces refers to an environment whereby the youth can meaningfully participate. And ano itong mga platforms kung nasan kailangan niyang mag-participate, no? Dapat meron siyang boses at the economic, social, and political issues. And hindi lang basta the mere fact na naibahagi niya yung kanyang boses, but equally important is to ensure that the youth is not experiencing any discrimination just because he or she articulated his or her voice, no? Even yung context ng harassment, no? And as well as bias. So, kaya let me also introduce to you, no, yung ating YPS or the Youth Peace Security. So, the Philippines is a signatory to the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250, no, kasi member tayo ng UN. Kaya isa sa mga tinitignan natin is yung resolution that talks about the youth peace and security, no. So this one recognizes the role and unique experience of the youth before, after, and during conflict context situation. But in the Philippines, we have discussed the crafting, no, nung ating sarili nating plano, the Philippine Plan or the National Action Plan on Youth Peace and Security, kasi lumabas ito sa a series of consultations among the youth. No, way back 2018, we had conducted a series of youth peace tables in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And we are crafting a national action plan on YPS, not because of compliance to the UN, but more importantly because of the experiences or mga napagdaanan, no, ng ating mga kabataan. So this is how the UNSCR 2250 look like. No, it has different components. Meron siya on participation, but let me emphasize, no, that it has to be a meaningful platform and it has to be a viable platform for participation. Meron tayong mga sangguniang kabataan, meron tayong mga youth-led organizations, but yun din, no, kasama na tinitignan din also is yung protection of the human rights of our youth, prevention, the partnership, and disengagement and reintegration. Kasi we need to capacitate and empower our youth para sila mismo, no, yung may kakayahan, no, na mag-implement ng kanilang mga ideas or initiatives towards peace building. So at present, meron tayong tinatawag na a multi-stakeholder group, no? It's composed of government agencies, non-government agencies, international and local partners, And most especially no yung ating mga youth-led organizations no that are part of the mechanism na sa pagbuo no nung ating National Action Plan on Youth Peace and Security. So, this is how it looked like, no? Isa ito, no, dun sa ating tinitignan na platform that can help in contributing yung ating safe space. It's an inclusive platform and an avenue for all the youth to share their insights and narratives that can contribute to the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace, and Security. So, inaanyayahan namin kayo na makihalubilo dito, no? So, let me also share to you, no, na isa ito doon sa mga inikot natin, no? While there is a pandemic, syempre we recognize din yung mga kahalagahan ng protection ng ating mga kabataan towards this health security concern. But equally important is to ensure that we are able to gather no yung narratives, the unique and very rich narratives ng ating mga kabataan no in some areas of the country. So in certain areas that have experienced conflict affectation, for example, in Central Mindanao, meron in the island provinces also na naka-experience no ng impact of conflict. And while we are unable to migrate to the new normal, no, we can't afford na hindi marinig no yung mga o mapakinggan no yung pinagdadaanan ng ating mga kabataan. So sila mismo talaga yung nag-identify ng kanilang mga nakikitang possible contribution doon sa 5 pillars no ng youth, peace and security. So dito rin allow me to also share with you yung mga initial concerns no na nag-gather natin no ng mga narratives. No, this is just a snapshot pero marami pa dito no na merong mga complexities no na kailangang himayin kasi kada community meron siyang unique no or meron siyang mga peculiarities no na pinagdadaanan, but this is an attempt to also encapsulate no yung iba't ibang mga sharing of our youth. So some of them have experienced yung mga local conflict that is brought about by mga feudal or mga rido no in some areas. And ito ay nagresulta ng displacement no. So when their families were displaced, nakakaroon ito ng apekto rin no sa kanilang education. Some of them will really have to stop no from studying and yung impact nito no sa mental health. There are also some youth that have shared about their experiences on discrimination and bullying, no? Dahil sa iba't ibang factors. Yung iba dahil sa kanilang ethnicity, yung iba dahil sa kanilang mga preferences, no? Yung halimbawa, yung mga bahagi ng LGBTQIA++ na community, no? Some of them experience this kind of discrimination. Even because of the age, no? Kasi dahil batang babae, dahil batang lalaki. So may mga instances na na-feel nila na hindi pinapakinggan or hindi nabibigyang halaga yung kanilang mga insights or opinions or recommendations. So, in some areas na nagkakaroon ng mga early marriages, no, it also affects no yung kanilang biological health, no, lalo na when they become pregnant no at a young age. Also, yung mga OSY, the out of school youth, and those that are experiencing unemployment no, because nga hindi sila nakapag-aral so nahirapan maghanap ng trabaho. There are also some areas that experience or they felt na kulang ang oportunidad no sa kanila para makihalubilo kasi the youth no they have the fire no to be engaged. However, sa kanilang mga komunidad walang masyadong nangyayari na mga program or di naman kaya ay malayo masyado kaya hindi nagtitrickle no sa kanilang areas no yung ganitong mga klaseng interventions. The drugs also become one of the issues that has been identified no. Also yung impact of the pandemic not only in terms of the health but particularly yung kanilang yung impact no doon sa psychosocial and mental well-being no. Yun din ito lang yung some of the concerns that have been also shared no by our groups from Luzon, Visayas and Mindanao. So, of course, we continuously want to enrich itong mga pag-capture ng mga narratives. Kaya we hope that you are also able to participate. Isa sa mga tools that we have also is yung online survey natin where you can feel free no, to also be able to share your insights. And meron tayo hanggang April 15 no, to work on this. Okay. And let me also share no yung na sinabi ng ating mga colleagues from UNESCO. The way youth resilience manifests itself is highly dependent on the context, no, yung ating environment where we are. So kasama dito no yung mga iba't ibang factors like social, economic, and political. And when the youth are provided with opportunities for participation, and let me emphasize, it has to be a meaningful participation, they are more likely to capitalize on the resilience constructively, thus becoming very valuable assets in peace building. And youth are essential actors in contributing to peace building processes. So titingnan natin yung hindi lang in areas na nakaka-experience ng conflict or merong vulnerability in conflict, no? Kasi nga sabi natin, even in areas na walang physical manifestation of conflict, we still have no the capability no to impact change no in our society. Kasi even in the virtual platform no, especially they are among the most affected by conflict and can play important roles as agents of positive change. No? Kaya to also conclude no, itong ating discussion on the meaningful role ng ating kabataan on peace building, let me just leave you with one question. So what am I doing to achieve peace? No? In your own capacity, in your community, even in your family, no, as basic unit of the society. So, meron siyang impact doon sa ating bigger peace agenda. Ano yung ating mga ginagawa no, para makakontribute no, sa pagkakaroon ng ating sustainable peace in our country. So, with that, thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Miss Vanessa Pagliarco. Ma'am, I do have a question here. As Filipinos, how can we assist the people of Ukraine and what impact does it have on us?
Well, marami siyang impact, no? Kasi hindi lang at political level, no? If you are to examine it, no? At the geopolitical level, no? Even at the socio-economic, no? We have seen how isang impact, of course, yung naramdaman natin concretely, no? Yung pagtaas ng fuel, that's one of the impact. But similarly, no? Yung atin ding, as a country, no? Kasi meron din tayong policy yung ating bansa no kasama siya sa nag-sign doon sa UN no na condemning no yung nangyayari sa Ukraine. So but bilang kabataan no isa sa mga narratives na pwede nating tignan din no yung nangyayari sa mga social media platforms no. Are you part of the group that's advocating no sa pagkakaroon ng pag-support sa war, or are you part of the group no that provides for advocacy on peace no? So meron tayong mga mga opportunities no in our own little way no as a youth, and even yung pagkakaroon ng ganitong mga spaces where we can freely share no. And look, kasi kailangan din nating makita no na meron tayong mga active support no doon sa ating campaign for peace. And syempre, yung ating geopolitics, no, that's one level. At the government, meron na tayong nilabas na policy that we are condemning what's happening in Ukraine. But also, yung pagkakaroon natin ng initiative no, to inform other people. Kanina, one of our lecturers mentioned about having no, yung mga accurate information. So, dapat yun din. That's our moral responsibility na yun nga, yung ating sinasabi na think before you click, no? Yung mga ini-spread din natin, no, ng mga balita, lalo na ngayon, no, even yung mga virtual spaces natin, that's part of the communities. The Viber groups, that's one platform, yung ating mga Facebook groups, our page, no? Yan yung mga platforms where we can continuously support yung ating advocacy for peace. So, and syempre, tignan din natin, no, yung it's also high time that we look into the climate change, no? Kasi nga, yung Ukraine also has resources, even kapag tingnan natin, no, yung resources that Russia has, no? Kasama yan yung tinitignan sa future trends, yung tinatawag natin na resource-based conflict. In some areas of the world nangyayari yan, yung issue ng scarcity ng water. So dapat tayo din ngayon pa lang pinaghahandaan na rin natin yan. We saw how the climate change impacted our country. There are areas, especially in Mindanao, that dati hindi dinadaanan ng mga super typhoon. But recently, no, nagkaroon ng mga, yung recently, of course, yung nangyari sa Siargao na naapektuhan, even Cebu, Bohol, no? So yun din yung ating mga responsibility to protect yung ating environment. Kasi kasama yan sa peace, no? Yung ating harmony with the environment, that's also one responsibility. So I hope that's one of the challenges, no, na kailangan tignan din natin. Over to you, Micah.
Thank you, Miss Vanessa Payarco. A round of applause for Miss Vanessa Bianca Payarco. Thank you for all your insights, ma'am. Thank you once again to Jayton Zulweta, Miss Vanessa Bianca Payarco, and Vino Lucero for really just sharing their passions, their advocacies, and their insights with all of us today. And at this point, we will be announcing the first 5 winners of the 1,000 pesos via GCash. Okay, so these winners were harvested from our social media platforms, and you can still continue tweeting. Just tweet away your key takeaways. But here are our winners for today with their best takeaway tweets of impactful lessons from our speakers. Beginning with Seokuju, that's Seokuju. As a future educator, the campaign for safe schools speaks volumes to me. This helped remind me to be my best. This helped remind myself to be the best teacher I can be, to encourage my students to reach their full potential, and also to make them feel safe while learning. Congratulations, Shokoju, and good luck, because you said you want to be a future educator. We wish you all the best. Next, we have at Benedict_Anuta. May we not underestimate our power any longer. Real change starts within us. Let's start by promoting safe spaces with our family, friends, and the people immediately around us, and we will realize how powerful people can be when we work together. Congratulations, Benedict_Anuta. Next, we have Arman Cristobal. It's really hard to stomach that innocent people being put in between wars have to suffer so much. We need to address the root of these conflicts collectively in order for us to save our future. I would like to cite the NPA as an example. Although I may not align with their beliefs, I understand and would like to validate their stand about achieving real freedom from the shackles our society is in. I hope that peace talks would remain para mas ma-amplify ang mga kadahilanan nila. Next, we have Dayin Castro. We do not need power, head principals, or famous people in order to achieve safe spaces. And Dayin Astro actually quoted Sir Jayton. We just need to talk, ask one another, share one another's thoughts and opinions, tell the truth no matter what in order to have a great bond between us, student and teacher. Learning is a process that can't be fast forward in just a whim. We all learn and it never stops. And completing that list, we have at Jenna414. My takeaway is tayo ang pagbabago na ating hinihintay by Jayton Zulweta. This resonated with me because I believe that we need to be the change that we want. People have the power to change the things in this world. Congratulations to all our winners, Jenna414, Dayin Astro, Arman Cristobal, Benedict_Anuta, and Shokuju. You are our winners of 1,000 pesos via GCash. Please send us a DM at the Safe Spaces Campaign Facebook page and Twitter. So yesterday, the winners from yesterday did it by email, but today we are requesting that you send a DM at the Safe Spaces Campaign Facebook page and Twitter. Congratulations, and keep tweeting, everybody, your key takeaways. All right. We are now on our fourth category. We have creating safe spaces for children, and these are the following films: Sabi ni Lola by Kylie Cerito, I'm Sorry Tay by Kalikha Multimedia, Estranjero by John Quito Julian, and Creating Safe Space for Children by Erica Ann P. Francisco, Francesca Gidel D. Udan, Virginia May Constante, and Frances Joyce A. Domingo. We also have Kung Papali Pa Rin sa Palad ng Pagpupunla by Clarice Grajo, Chanel Avila Marina Secades, and Erica Baet. And the winner is... Congratulations to Creating Safe Space for Children by Erica Ann P. Francisco, Francesca Gidel Udan, Virginia May Constante, and Frances Joyce Domingo. Let's all watch the winning entry for the category Creating Safe Spaces for Children.
My ate and I are very different. But I still think she's the coolest person ever. I love living with my ate. I mean, look at her. Ate, bakit naging white yung clouds? Bakit hindi green, or purple, or pink? Parang cotton candy. Saki says we should play right now. My friend told me she has 2 months. That's so good, baby. Ate, lunchtime is for eating. Eating! Stop that na! Let's go! But sometimes... Ate, I want to help. I can do it. Let me. Ate doesn't like being with me at all.
Ano ba? Ano nga itong ginagawa mo? Hindi ka naman nakakatulong, dumadagdag ka pa sa gawain. Gusto mo makatikim? Go back to your room.
I love my ate. I really do. But... Saki, don't you wish we could get away? I don't want to be a kid anymore. I feel useless this way. Do you think she will talk anymore if I'm older? I won't ask her questions anymore. Lagi na lang siyang galit sa akin. It doesn't feel good sa akin. Ate, are you still mad? My ate is not perfect.
No.
I'm sorry, ate.
It's okay. Sorry.
But she's trying. So, I'm gonna try too. To empathize more with the people who care for me. and to learn more about the world that's so different from mine. Without much restriction. Because I'm allowed just to be me.
Every space should be a safe space for children. Turn safe spaces into a reality.
Again, congratulations to Creating Safe Space for Children by Erica Ann Francisco, Francesca Gidel Udan, Virginia Constante, Francis Joyce Domingo. That was a very heartwarming and very relatable, especially to those who have younger siblings. So maraming salamat. Thank you. Now, our next speaker for Creating Safe Spaces for Children is Miss Ambrielle Pascual. She's an advocate for children's rights, eco-practices, and the Sustainable Development Goals. She is currently one of the founders of Streets to Schools Metro Manila and a Safe Space Hero of the Global Youth Summit. She was formerly an SDG 14 ambassador for the 2030 Youth Force in the Philippines and a part of the executive board of Earth UST. As her way of expanding her influence, she joined Miss World Philippines 2021 as a representative of Manila and became a finalist for the Beauty with a Purpose Award. She is currently a third-year marketing student at the College of Commerce in UST and Tumashan Youth Ambassadress. Ambrielle uses her knowledge and experience to advocate for sustainable lifestyle practices through her social media content. Let's all welcome Miss Ambrielle Pascual.
Thank you so much, Miss Mika, for that very wonderful introduction. And yes, again, I am Ambrielle Pascual, but you may call me Amber for easier recognition or remembrance, because I know that it can really be a mouthful. So without further ado, let me just share my screen and I will begin my presentation. Okay, so today I will be presenting about creating safe spaces for young children to be children. And as we always say it in Streets to Schools, everything we do is para sa bata. So to jump right in, I really think we need to start adopting a rights-based approach in creating solutions involving children. Children are seen as the future of our society, and it has been over 30 years since the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child has been ratified. The UNCRC is basically an international agreement on childhood, and it's also the most widely ratified human rights treaty in history. So why do we need to start adopting a rights-based approach? Currently, what we see in usual outreach programs or projects is usually a needs-based approach, asking or checking the community, seeing what you think they need. But what we've learned from the UNCRC is rather than just adopting a needs-based approach, we should also think about giving these things to children because it's their right to have. It's their right to have an education, and a right to have freedom of speech, a right to have a home, a right to see their parents. So that's why we need to start adopting a rights-based approach. This UN Convention on the Rights of the Child Agreement has actually helped in improving the lives of children all around the world, but despite this, not all children experience their complete childhood. This is why we must continue the fight to make sure that every child receives these rights. It is up to our generation to demand that leaders from government, businesses, and communities fulfill their commitment and take action for child's rights now, once and for all. The lockdown is a reminder to us that if a pandemic won't seize our future, child abuse will. The lockdown has uncovered how we are in a hidden child's rights crisis, an increase of 265% or 279,000 incidents of child abuse cases has been observed since the lockdown was implemented back in 2019. Children are more at risk from online sexual abuse amidst the COVID-19 pandemic as families resort to easy money due to deepening poverty, while children are not allowed to leave homes. So here are two ways to stay safe online. First would be not just for children, but for everyone. Do not allow personal information, especially addresses or full names of the family and such, to be posted in social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be, because it is an easy way to track and even follow your life. They might be able to go to your homes, contact your children, and do things that you would never wish people would do onto you. And second would be not only for children, actually, for everyone. Second would be to avoid downloading applications without adult supervision or making sure that this is something that is trusted. Especially now that we have shifted to online learning, wherein children are actually more exposed to online threats. Actually, back in 2020, if I remember, there has been a TikTok challenge called Invisible Challenge. It was a challenge that has an invisible filter that will make the person invisible. And the problem with this challenge was part of it involves undressing in front of the camera. And TikTok being available to almost all ages, it has become an issue because once you post this photo, these filters can be reverse engineered. So that's one of the samples on why it is really important that we avoid downloading applications without adult supervision. And not only applications like TikTok or social media, it can be also gaming applications that has the capacity to chat other players, such as what's famous with my siblings, I think, Roblox. So I guess that's something that a few or a lot, maybe a lot, can relate to. One of the most eye-opening interactions that I actually had with my work as an out-of-school youth volunteer would be how we visited Manila North Cemetery just here in Metro Manila, wherein there is a group of children who doesn't know how to read or write. Basically, they're illiterate. There was this one kid who didn't want to participate, not because he doesn't like us volunteers or he doesn't like the children that are with him, but more on because our activity that time was drawing and coloring on worksheet paper. So there was a cartoon and they colored it. One of the things that you had to do was to write your name. And this kid who didn't want to participate told us that it's not because he didn't want to join, he actually wanted to. But the problem was he doesn't know how to write his name because he doesn't know how to hold a pencil. And that was one of the most heartbreaking things that we heard because something as simple as holding a pencil gave him or rather didn't give him the capability of writing his name and starting the activity. Almost all of us knows our name, but not everyone can write it. So that is one of the problems here in the Philippines, or maybe even around the world. And I'm sharing this to let you know, to let everyone watching know that it is indeed a problem. Something as little as not being able to write because they can't hold a pencil. It's not just not being able to read or not being able to speak English. It's something as simple as not being able to write, to hold a pencil. We always talk about children's rights, but we sometimes forget to integrate child participation, to actually ask them about their thoughts and feelings. And as an environment advocate, I believe it is important that we not only fight for environmental conservation, preservation, and biodiversity, but also fight for those who will live on it in the future, that being the children. Because to advocate for a better tomorrow, we need to start advocating for the rights of the child. So in every presentation that I have, I always try to invoke a call to action. And for today, my call to action would be to realize your privilege. Privilege, by definition, is a special right or advantage, immunity even, granted or available only to a particular person or group of people. So you could see it on the screen right now. It's something that I grabbed off of Google. Whenever people think of privilege, people always think that it's people who live in a bubble, mga burgis, mga no sense of reality, or people exempted from challenges in life. And because of this, people think it's bad to have privilege. But from my knowledge and experience in working with kids, working with people with really big privilege, privilege is actually only bad if you don't use it to help other people. It's only bad if you don't use these extra resources, these platforms, to uplift those who need uplifting. Privilege can come in many forms. It can be privilege to have plenty of resources, have the time, the money, the connections, and for some people, even privilege to be pretty is also one of the privileges that you can use. And what I think is people should start using their privileges and start acknowledging that they have a privilege so they can use it as a platform for causes that matter to them, for causes that needs uplifting, for causes that needs to be heard by more people. Because the only way that we can solve a problem, a global problem rather, is to provide a global solution. And the only way to do that is if we are hand in hand in thinking of, in creating, and in developing these solutions. So that is the end of my quick presentation. And I would like to end my presentation with this quote from actually another film competition winner in a previous film competition. It's by Segunda. And they said, "Fortunate is the child who lives with monsters under their bed. In a world where some children do not have beds and monsters do not have to hide." So that is the end of my presentation. If you want to connect or collaborate with me, my social media pages are flashed on the screen. That's for my Instagram, it's at ambrielg, or you could also message or email me at ambriel.pascual@gmail.com. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you, have courage, and always be kind.
Thank you very much, Ambriel, for just sharing your advocacy with us. And I do have a question for you. How important is it to include the voices of the children in the process of building and reimagining a better community?
Involving children when we're creating solutions for creating a better tomorrow is really important, because how would we know what will make the future better if it doesn't come from the person itself or from the child itself whom we are making the future better for? We always think about they need this, they need that, but it's always based from our observation or based from what the adults or their guardians tell us. We sometimes forget that we need to involve the child or make sure that they participate in creating solutions for the problems that we are facing today. So it is very detrimental that we involve children when it comes to thinking of solutions for the problems, because they are the ones that we are making the future better for. And how are we going to make sure that the future is indeed better if they don't think so itself?
Thank you, and really thank you for your time that you've spent with us. Thank you once again, Ambriel.
Thank you so much.
And now we move on to our fifth and final category, safe spaces for all faces. We have Tinig by Tanghalang Maskara, Tangis ni Maria Wangis ng Pag-asa by Benedin Vriane Pamatmat, John Angelo Himpisaw, Naili Arizabel Valino, Estelle Star Villaflores, and Rafael Talatala. We also have Wangis ng Isang Tika by Borromeo, Nelmar Ocampo, Malayaw, John Russell Reyes, Para, John Gabriel, Endrinal Crystalline Imperial, and Jaime Pauline Angela Chan. We also have Anino by Kabataan. Okay, Anino by Kabataan Productions, You by Adelza Maria Leandria, also by Buwalat Jedaya Jaira, by Buwat Erwin John, and Idano Maria Hasa Grace, and Salise John Mark. You by... Okay, I believe there was a bit of a typo here. So that is, let me do that again. Tangis ni Maria, we have first Tinig by Tanghalang Maskara, Tangis ni Maria, Wangis ng Pag-asa, followed by Wangis ng Isang Tika, and then Anino and You. And the winner is... And the winner is... Congratulations to Tinig by Tanghalang Maskara. Let's all watch the winning entry for the category Safe Spaces for All Faces.
Kahit hindi ako nakapagsalita, kaya kong magsalita. Ikaw.
Di na ba naririnig, tinig ng bayan na galing, himig ito ng Pilipinong di muli palulubing, dudurugin ang dilim, ang araw ay mag-aaraw, at mga pusong nagtindi ay mag-iiyak.
Congratulations to Tanghalang Maskara for their film Tinig. Grabe, nakaka-goosebumps watching that film. And I hope you guys felt that too. It is very, very apt for the current times. But our last but not the least, among the Youth Initiative speakers, we have Miss Yasmira Moner for Safe Spaces for All Faces. She is an assistant professor of political science and an acting director of Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology. Let's all welcome Miss Yasmira Moner.
Alright, magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Thank you so much, Mika, for that warm introduction. So to all those listening via our social media pages, hashtag Safe Spaces for All Faces, allow me to greet you the universal greetings of Islam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And muli, a pleasant day to everyone. No? Upon hearing all those previous speakers, it was such a very encouraging and a very brave conversation about the need to mainstream the marginalized voices, and especially the previous one of that winning film. Congratulations, for that very brave, telling of what should be done in order for our voices to be heard, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, and sexual orientation. And of course, because we are all part of the indivisible whole that is humanity. So I was tasked to basically speak about how to brave the way to diversity. Diversity is such a beautiful word. It's such a big word, but more often than not, we also it's very difficult to basically define diversity that will not hurt those who are being silenced or being marginalized in the process of building what we call nation state. What I will be telling you now is a story of a woman, a moral woman, who braved her way to live and embraced the courage to live in a in a highly diverse and a plural society that is the Philippines. Next, please. So I was born and raised in a beautifully diverse island. It's the second largest island of Mindanao in the southern part of the Philippines. That is made up of a rich culture and a tapestry of different cultures and ethnicities, and of course, peoples. In here, I would like to quote a Mindanao historian and a retired professor of history, Professor Rudy Ompong Rudil, when he used the word tri people. Here in Mindanao, we have the Christian migrants and their descendants, the indigenous people we can also call Lumad, and of course the Bangsamoro Muslims. So this beautifully diverse peoples of Mindanao, where I was born and raised with, is a story that is also controversial, because once upon a time the indigenous people, we call that has this common ancestry. In the history of my people, we have this ancestry called the Tabunaway and Mamalu. And these brothers, who was then later on one of them converted to Islam, decided to live in that faith. No, and then the one of the brother, Tabunaway, decided to stay and be part of what we now call the indigenous people, of Mindanao. And with of course they are coming from different ethnicities also, as we believe that here in Mindanao we are all indigenous people. No, and we are of course identified according to our religion, and then our gender orientation, and of course, and yet we are all Filipino citizens that is supposedly that are afforded with the equal access to opportunities and equal protection of the laws of the land, because after all, we are one nation with different beautifully diverse identities. So I wanted to raise the voice of a Mindanaoan, of a woman, of a Moro woman that has a painful history of conflict and displacement. Next, please. So let me take you back on the year 2000 to 2000. That's 22 years ago, when then President Arab Estrada declared an all-out war in Mindanao. That was during the time when the government was supposedly doing a negotiation with one of the largest armed group in the country, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, considered to be waging a war of separatism against the Philippines. I was then a high school student in a Catholic school in Mindanao. And during that time, I did not understand why things happened the way they are. I was a friend, my best friend was a Christian. And when that war broke out, I didn't understand why when we are when we are bringing ourselves to safety, because I was then located in Kauswagan, a coastal municipality in the province of Lanao del Norte, that we weren't actually allowed to board because most of those that are actually owning those bankers were happened to be Christians, and they were blaming the Muslims because the MILF, which was then considered a rebel group, was the one blamed for that war. So that narrative of discrimination against my family, against me, has provided me, has dampened my spirit initially. During that time, I was then a high school student, and I struggled understanding my faith, my people, and my government. During that time, displacements, which started in the northern part of Mindanao, spread across what is now the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and become a full-scale war, of which 45% in the area of northern Mindanao, including Lanao del Norte, has problems of internal displacements and human-induced disaster. Other than the fact that in Mindanao, it's considered to be disaster-prone area because we are near the Pacific Ring of Fire. So the natural calamities that we have to battle with during typhoons, flooding, is compounded with the human-induced disasters of armed conflict. That is, of course, caused by that issue of we are different, that we are othered in this whole idea of nation state building, because we are fighting for the right to self-determination. I was determined. So during that time, a decade after that, in 2010, or sorry, decades, 12 years after that, I wrote a piece, in one of the online portal, where, and that's the one in the photo, the silhouette. I was then I was a Moro woman. I'm starting to rediscover my identity, the layers of my identity as a Filipina, as a Moro woman, as a young woman that is feeling like being different, living in a society where being a Muslim is labeled as something so different from the rest, where our religious identity is branded as the othered bad guy, quote unquote. There was this very painful identification that I felt for, and I felt like, why was my religion subject of demonization? way back then in a 2010 article in one of the pages of the national broadsheet, then there was there a particular caption where there was this hijabi like me, and the tagline was security risk. So living in a society where patriarchal values are still very much persistent, and that being a Muslim is something that is politically charged, that you're still fighting that marginalization because of a cultural and religious identity, is something that I come to term with, that I still, up until now, I still have difficulty in pushing for a genuine cultural transformation against a majority that discriminates the minorities like me. And so, and despite this painful story, I persisted. Next. So, why did it happen in the first place? So that's a flashback, and now we have the newly created autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, the Bangsamoro, which is a 3-year-old autonomous region that was created purposely because we have this group of people that considers themselves as a distinct sociocultural identity that is distinct from the Filipino nation, because historically Filipinos are Christianized member of the Philippine society. And so come 1970s, at the height of the period of the dictatorship, by the late Marcos Sr., who was then the president, declared martial law. And among those who carry the burden of martial law, and of course all Filipinos, but there was a double burden for us in the Philippine South, because we are fighting the war against discrimination of our own fellow Filipino citizens, and at the same time we are continuing this political struggle to our right to self-determination, where we wanted to have that meaningful self-governance that we've been fighting for 40 years or more, or even before that. That was just what is in the history books. Our right to self-determination started way before the colonization of Spain in the Philippines. We've been fighting for that right to have that full space for meaningful participation, where our children could freely speak without fear of retaliation or political persecution, just because we wanted to call ourselves Filipino Muslims, and we wanted to practice our faith, our governance system that is reflected of that identity. And with that hope, with that steadfast faith and dream of realizing this political aspiration, we persisted. Next. So in 2014, we we basically lobbied through our network, the Young Moral Professionals Network, where I was part of, for the we celebrated that victory of the signing of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro, which is a political document that paved the way for the end of the armed conflict between the government, between the state, between the armed forces and the largest Muslim separatist group in the country, particularly the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, that was born out of an ethno-nationalist conflict. So it was really a sovereignty-based conflict. That's why I would say I keep on mentioning that one, because that was a very historic. It's so euphoric. That's a very historic milestone for every Moro person, man and woman, girl and boy in that part of the Philippine South, where we celebrated with the rest of our Filipino brothers and sisters in saying that we support This was also actually Women's Month, no, March 2014, that we supported the call for cultural tolerance and religious understanding, dubbed as Hijab Run for Peace. And what is very historic about this one is a celebration of diversity. In that area in EDSA, in QC, where we commence it in Camp Aguinaldo, in the armed forces, no, the headquarter of the security force, the armed forces of the Philippines, where we also run with our sisters and brothers from all walks of life, from the national line agencies, even from our international development partners, of course, our youth champions, our women champions, and our more brothers and sisters, humbly calling for the continuous peace processes to happen now that the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro was signed by the Philippine government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So this particular advocacy with my fellows from the Young More Professionals Network was so symbolic for me, because when I joined the organization, by the way, the Young More Professionals Network is the largest young Muslim professional group that aims to transcend that ethnocentrism in the Bangsamoro. That we aimed at looking at everyone not on the basis of our tribal affiliation or our religion, but on the basis of our advocacy and our longing towards genuine peace that will lead us to sustainable development and inclusive place for everyone, a brave space for everyone. Next. So in it, so as a Muslim Filipina, this is my divine guide. As a person of faith, I believe that my advocacy for advocating for advocating for diversity and for cultural plurality is guided by my faith. It is stated in our holy book in the Quran, in Surah Al-Hujurat, which is, I believe, is the most powerful surah, or divine guidance for every Muslim, men and women. O human being, we have created you from a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know one another. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of God, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is he who is the most righteous of you. So it is not the one who is most wealthy or most popular or famous, but those who are actually working towards dialogue and recognizing the beauty of diversity. Next. So, my life working towards that life into appreciating life of diversity, started when I did that particular mission, that lifelong journey to peace building that is anchored on non-violent, non-adversarial approach to conflict management and transformation. So I work with this group of young people here, in Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. They call themselves Team Pakik Sandurot, and so in the photo we have a campaign called hashtag Break the Barriers. And so this is a all female team of students who wish to raise awareness on the importance of religious understanding, cultural dialogue, and the power of diversity in raising the voices of the youth in leadership roles. That we are not just the hope of the country, as what our national hero Rizal is, but that hope is also accompanied with responsibility. No, so yung kagaya pong sabi kanina ni Jayton, no, Jayton Zulueta, no, that powerful, no, compelling narrative na tayo ang pagbabago na ating hinihintay, no, at hindi, wag lang po natin iasa sa gobyerno. Makipagtulungan po tayo sa gobyerno at iangat po natin yung diskurso ng diversity, yung diskurso ng pagkakaiba ay isang kapangyarihan na dapat nating i-embrace ay isang pagkakakilanlan. It's an identity that is a psyche of our country, no? And what makes Philippines beautiful is the different colors and different identities that we do have. No, our rich cultures as a nation is what really makes us unique and what makes us a strong nation at that. No, my work as a peace educator is also informed by my value. No, my values as a human advocate, human right advocate. I believe that dialogue is the way to go. Yung sinasabi na dapat din tayong makinig because listening to people, understanding people is not a waste of time. It's never a waste of time. And in a socially media driven world, it is so ironic that it is supposed to be a platform for social connection, but it has now become a very toxic place for people. No, that we don't tend to share information to listen to other people, to understand people, but just to plainly argue, no, and prove that we are right, and it loses the whole idea of communication, which is a two-way multiple process where we do not just relay information, but we exchange ideas and perspectives. That makes diversity, a very important ingredient in democratic deliberations. No? Because I'm also an advocate of deliberative democracy. No, so here is this is where no that the Team Pakiksandarut is in the photo. So they won, no, they won a prize in the adventure contest, no, on digital platform for preventing transforming violent conflicts through online platform. And so that was I invite you to check their platform. It's still out there in social media. You could check out Team Pakik Sandurut. So they've been very pretty much successful in terms of reaching out to their fellow youth and do interfaith dialogues. And of course, because they are women, no, naiaangat din nila yung diskurso na dapat kasama ang mga kababaihan, no, sa pag-promote ng social inclusion. Next, please. And so this is my story. Here I am now in the academe, no, but also mainstreaming peace as my politics, dialogue as my way of understanding the complexity of life. That peace is not about the absence of conflict, but the ability to be able to address conflict in a non-violent, non-adversarial manner. Um, I'm also humbled to be part of the first ever global assembly that is actually a virtual platform where 100 people, which is a snapshot of the human family, come together to discuss about climate crisis. And that's very important because as previously pointed out by Director Vanessa Palyarco of PAPRU, that we are now experiencing the tragedy of the commons. Na kahit pa summer, umuulan, no? And kahit pa umuulan lang, grabe na yung baha. So this idea of ecological crisis that we are experiencing as a backlash of nature because there's too much environmental degradation. No, we are living in a society where consumerism is a lifestyle, and we are there's just a lot that that our natural resources is slowly depleting. Our natural resources is finite, but our population is growing exponentially. So what does it say about our environment? So this is part of the ongoing conversation that I guess we have to acknowledge the beauty of strength and diversity. That our various identity, the way we look, we discuss things in a manner that doesn't homogenize our culture, our people, our world, no, into something that we all think alike, no, is also a conflict by itself. So we should allow indigenous practices to thrive. We should allow creativity to thrive, and it is only through this that we will survive as a human species. Of course, also last year I was invited to do this online. I was invited by the Filipinas of Hammond, based in Canada, which is basically a group of women that also celebrates the diversity of people. And as we all know, just like the Bangsamoro, the Canada also has their own share of conflict, of identity-based conflict. So we come we this is so amazing with this crisis. It's never good that the COVID-19 happened, but seeing the brighter side of this crisis is also appreciating diversity. So this group of women that has come together, in trying to resolve this idea of global conflicts, terrorism, violent extremism. And I'm happy that with the platform that I was provided with during that pandemic, I was still able to apply what I've learned on the Karama, where I was a part of. The Karama is an educational institute where women from diverse backgrounds, Muslim women all around the world come together to discuss diverse issues that confronts them. And of course, the issues of Muslim women is not very much different with other women of faith and identities. And so this is an invitation for all women and men out there who understands the struggle of women. And this is my greatest takeaway. Where there is diversity, there is strength. And where there is strength, there is dignity. So let us continue the fight for a rights-based approach to diversity, because it is our future. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat din, Miss Yasmira Moner. Thank you for sharing your insights and sharing your advocacy with us. But I believe that's also the time left that we have. So thank you, Miss Yasmira. Let's give Miss Yasmira Moner a round of applause. So thank you to our last two speakers, Miss Ambriel Pascual, and Miss Yasmira Moner. But again, congratulations to our winners, to all our attendees, our speakers. We have come to the end of the program. You can visit https://ss online learning. Okay, once again, that's https bit.ly SS Online Learning to access Safe Spaces campaign online learning platform for Safe Spaces Ambassador Program. This has been a great 2 days. Thank you once again to our speakers and to our Filipino Sign Language interpreter, Mr. Patrick Palomares. And we're very excited for the 2022 Safe Spaces online learning platform. But I want to remind everybody to like the Safe Spaces Facebook page. Also, this is where you're going to find updates about us, about the campaign, and other opportunities that you can join. For those who are asking about your e-certificates, please answer your online feedback form that will be flashed at the end. And after you answer the form, the Secretariat will send you your e-certificate. And of course, thank you very much, Global Peace Foundation, Consuelo Zobel Alger Foundation, Unilever, Department of Education International Cooperation Office, and ABSCBN News Channel for making the second Safe Spaces Summit in the Philippines happen. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next year for a third Safe Spaces Summit in the country. I am your host, Mika Pineda, and I'm leaving you with Kier Aventurado, the organizing committee head of the second Safe Spaces Summit and 2020 Safe Space Hero, for his closing message.
Good day, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to express my appreciation to our guest speakers and panelists for their valuable contribution to our conversation about creating braver safe spaces. And my heartfelt gratitude goes to everyone who attended our event and contributed to its success. Global Peace Foundation and Consuelo Foundation started Safe Spaces Summit in hopes of creating spaces for everyone of different backgrounds and different situations to help them navigate through what the pandemic has brought to us. And now, in its second year, it once again proved that youth takes up spaces and challenges their situation in creative and innovative ways. Shown in their entries for our Safe Space short film competition. And speaking of it, congratulations to everyone who really showed up and shows us how safe spaces and braver conversation can change the narrative of our situation. We began the conversation about creating safe spaces last year. And this year, we encourage braver narratives and conversation where there is no bias or judgment, where we can all grow together. We are on the path of creating a safe space where everyone feels comfortable learning, sharing and growing, and where we encourage mutual learning and accountability. And while we're on the subject of education, we're also launching the country's first Safe Space campaign online learning platform for Safe Space Ambassador Program, where you can learn and begin your journey towards creating safe spaces for all faces. This is a part of Safe Space advocacy program launched by the Global Peace Foundation and the Consuelo Foundation to promote youth's role in advancing safe and supportive environment for children and youth to gather, live, and learn in. This is designed to help learners demonstrate understanding on safe spaces and the role of the youth in advocating for safe and inclusive environment and safe conversations. After the lessons, you shall be able to assess safe online practices, explore and enumerate youth-led initiatives in promoting safe space and safe conversation. And lastly, to collaborate with peers to propose and commit a solution in reducing and preventing all forms of violence, abuse in schools, homes, communities, workplace, and even on virtual spaces. To all of the attendees of the second Safe Space Summit, please do visit the Safe Space online learning platform at bit.ly/SOnlineLearning. That is bit.ly/SSOnlineLearning to learn more about the campaign and be one of the Safe Space ambassadors. This is not the end of the journey to create and build safer and braver spaces. Rather, it is the beginning of our journey together, one step at a time, into promoting and developing a mutual space for everyone to coexist and challenge each other in hopes of growing together. Thank you all again for attending the second Safe Space Summit, and we hope to see you again at the next year's summit. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the second Safe Spaces Summit. See you again next year.